to nurture wisdom life. The initial verse, be mindful of the Dharma with proper thoughts to realize the state of infinite meanings. Now, this, be mindful. Now, thoughts obviously generated from the mind. Being mindful is about the consciousness. So we cannot just let our mind to generate the thoughts. We need to have the higher consciousness, which is a spiritual consciousness. So the spiritual consciousness and the downflow to be able to generate proper thoughts, then only then the realization can come in. And so this mindful, it's Master has been referring to, is the contemplation. This mindfulness can only come through your contemplation. And the contemplation can come from the meditative mode, which means that the mind need to be in stillness. So it's a bit paradoxical in a sense that we need to be in stillness, and yet we can have thoughts. The difference is the two words here, mindful and proper. Okay, that's where this pure thoughts will be the realization. Then when you do that, then you realize the state of infinite meanings. That's why when the Dharma is delivered, is spoken, and I think it was one of the teaching that Master just mentioned in passing, that today there are so many treatises being written on the Dharma. So you can have a sutra, okay, we just have a teaching. And from that one teaching, it has blossomed into so many treatises written of that one single teaching, and that's what it is. So this is the truth of supreme meaning. Meaning, because the Buddha attained supreme enlightenment, the teaching carries supreme meaning. The supreme meaning it got infinite meanings. Within the Dharma is our throne. So Dharma is our throne is for us is the foremost. So where do you wear, when you sit on the throne, where do you wear your crown? In the crown of your head. So therefore, that is where the foremost is to unite our mind with the Buddhas. So in so doing, unite with mind with the Buddha, meaning you got to have that mind to the ninth consciousness. So that's where our Buddha nature is. Then we must resolve to seek the Bodhi, meaning we walk the Buddha's path. So the wondrous provisional teachings reveal the truth as we journey in the three precious cards. So the provisional teachings, we journey on from the three precious cards towards the true teachings. So in Master's explanation, when right Dharma is in our lives, our body and mind will be in a state of infinite meanings, which is I just explained. When our minds deviate, we become unenlightened beings. So, but first, we are unenlightened beings at the moment. So then, from an enlightened being, how then we then be able to have this state of infinite meanings? Obviously, it's a journey, but if we go from an enlightened mind to this state of realization of infinite meanings, we got to hold on to our aspirational vows because that's our goal. But in so doing, we need to train our mind. So the training of the mind is to calm the mind down to the level that we can gain the realization. So the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, the 84,000 teachings, if we just take one single teaching and start manifesting from there. So if we regard that, we've got 84,000 steps to take. But within each step, there also are the many infinite meaning steps. And that is the infinite meaning. So we got to start our journey and walk steadfastly. So when the truth of the supreme meaning is realized, we can be one with this infinite true meanings. We will achieve peace and stability. So all we need to do is actually from a teaching, because one teaching will unfold the next. It's like the blossom of a flower. So if you have a chance to see one of those time catcher photo or the blossom of a peony flower, or it could be a chrysanthemum flower. You see how slowly it blossoms from the outer to the inner. And this is what that's because when we realize one meaning, other meaning will unfold, because your life will such that as you progress in your life, you find that what is happening to your life and a form of a life becoming in the past has been overlooked. But as your consciousness grow, your mindfulness grow, your awareness grow, you will find that that happening or the becoming will unfold different meanings to you. So we must achieve a state where gentleness and patience are the clothing, and the emptiness of phenomena is the throne. These principles are stated in the Lotus Sutra. When gentleness and patience are our clothing, that's our conduct. That's our character. So therefore, as I shared with you all some quite a number of times, that the purpose of life is a change of character. Right? So when you change your character, your gentleness will appear, your patience will appear, you'll be calm, you'll be kind, you'll be cheerful, you'll be merciful, and you'll be peaceful. So the emptiness of phenomena is the throne. So when the emptiness of phenomena is in the throne, this is where your higher consciousness or spiritual consciousness will gradually, slowly go towards a state of emptiness. So the state of Buddha is very peaceful and free. It has to be peaceful and free because you understand on equanimous, and its emptiness of phenomena. So there's nothing that can disturb it. So it has been said that for the Buddha, he is no longer with eight consciousness anymore. Right? So the karma doesn't follow on the Buddha anymore because it's totally empty. Our house is totally empty. So it's a state of tranquility and clarity, unlike the enlightened state that we are in, which is filled with afflictions. So this is a logical explanation, because when the eight consciousness is still filled with a lot of karmic seeds, so we will always be afflicted. And so as whenever a karmic seed were to drop upon us, I will be afflicted. So that's the reason why in the whole training of the Dharma is to train us to be in a state of samadhi. First of all, we need to keep the precepts so that we do not mindfully, do not deviate. Then in a state of samadhi, to be able to accept and make peace with whatever is happening to us. So then we are training ourselves. We're training ourselves towards a state of tranquility, and then obviously eventually bring a clarity of our mind. So we have no control over the macrocosm of the world or microcosm of our life. So this is circumstantial karmic retribution that will come to us. So this is life for us to accept. It will manifest. COVID is here, so we have to deal with it. There are some the people, some of us are born in very evil regimes. We have to live that life. So, but the thing is that all this all karmic retribution. But when we understand the Dharma, we make peace with it. We make peace with it and we cultivate despite those conditions. So therefore, we face many external pressures. And as I can imagine, those imbalances, if you like, that come to our life. But the thing is that what is important is that do not let the external imbalances rattle your internal balance. So as well as many internal ones. So your internal ones will be our own mental affliction that come across. So that's the reason why we need to be in a state of deep awareness. And this deep awareness that Master explained a few lessons ago is this four wisdom, that be able to discern what is coming from outside, what is inside, which is the reason why I explained to you that when you grow in our consciousness, we need to practice outside in and inside out. So all caused by afflictions of the body and the mind. Sometimes our mind is like kerosene. You only need a spark to inflame our whole mind. So therefore, we've got to be very mindful. By understanding good Dharma, we'll become peaceful and free because we all know that what we must do. So when we learn the Buddha Dharma, we'll be in a state of calmness. When a state of calmness is like a still pond. So therefore, when we do that, we got to face a life becoming sweet ease. And so we cannot do that overnight. It takes years and years of training. But we, first of all, to make peace in life becomes, we need to, number one, we need to know and understand the Dharma. And we need to then contemplate on the teachings, and so that it become within you and practice with that realization. So, it's easy for us to say we practice with the teaching, but that teaching must be in your heart first. Before the Dharma can be in your heart, you need to go to state realization from the elevated consciousness. So that elevated consciousness is the state realization. Then we then know how to respond, and then we will not no longer be inflamed, despite the kerosene in my mind. The kerosene in my mind is coming from here, is from our subconsciousness. And but when we are in that stillness, we will no longer be in that particular state. So nurturing the wisdom life. Wondrous provisional teachings reveal the truth as we journey in the three precious cards, which I explained earlier. So it's provisional because it's not the true teaching yet. The true teaching was only delivered, and the Buddha delivered the Lotus Sutra. But because of different capabilities, that's why the provisional teaching have to be given. But despite that, those are wondrous teachings because they reveal the truth. So in living in this world, help us to develop our spiritual aspiration. And we need this world because this will help us to settle our karmic scores. When it helps to settle our karmic scores, it helps us to develop our spiritual aspiration. So having attained liberation, understood the sufferings of life, we can then devote ourselves to relieving suffering. So this is about having our inner light. So we need to illuminate our inner light so that we can light the path of others. This is what brings the most joy, and this most joy is about the inner joy you have, and that is where we can. This is why when we practice outside in, our external cultivation, we know to keep that with the infinite mind. Knowing that the children had avoided disaster, the father sat peacefully upright upon the throne of infinite meaning. So I just took this particular line that Master spoke of in the sutra. So it means the Buddha knew his heart that is in his heart that his disciples have taken the Dharma to heart. Right. So I'll just explain what I mean by taking the Dharma to heart. That means the disciples are going to state realization. Obviously, the state realization, different capabilities, different state realization, but that realization of for the hearers and Vajika Buddhas is easier because it's only about the self. So that's they are not able to expand the heart yet to cover all the others, but they illuminate themselves. So in very much the same way for us, we need to understand the Dharma first. But understanding the Dharma, we need to take it to heart. So we need to go through the state realization, and the whole thing about the path, the journey to enlightenment is about realization. So it's been said that solitary realizes, that's why the word realize, solitary realization, self-realization. That was the moment that he sat peacefully upright upon the throne of infinite meanings, which I explained, and how this meaning can manifest. So you may recall there was quite a number of lessons ago, Master briefly mentioned about the 10 bhumis. The 10 bhumis is for the Bodhisattva path, are the 10 grounds of practice. And until we reach the ground of what you call no more learning. So on the 10 grounds, actually there are five paths. It's been said there are 5 paths. So within the 5 paths, the last path is called the path of no more learning. So in other words, the power of no more learning, because you already understood the supreme meaning of the Dharma and how it can manifest to infinite meanings. So sitting means that their minds are at peace and they are abiding in the Dharma. This is the samadhi of infinite meaning. This is a stillness that I was referring to. So the lessons learned. So we have inherited the Buddha's wisdom life and the Dharma lineage. So despite this Dharma degenerating age, Dharma is still here. It's just that this here we need to get the right master who is able to deliver that to us. So it's from the realization of the master is able to deliver the teachings. And at this time in this evil world of vitability, which is in the Dharma degenerating age. So master hopes that everyone will have the wondrous provision and true wisdom to save and deliver sentient beings. So even though we know about this provisional teachings of the Four Noble Truth, the Noble Eightfold Path, the 12 links of cyclic existence. And from there, obviously, we then, with that basic understanding, provisional teaching, we'll be able to then grow our realization, get more meanings towards on the Lotus Sutra. So this must be our aspiration. So experience and realize the Dharma, experience. So not only that, this realization, if we just listen to Dharma and we sit down and say, let's realize the Dharma, it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way because then you might as well go to a university, take a 3-year course, and then teach you, and then we realize. So we know that can't happen. So therefore, after hearing the Dharma, we will be experiencing it. When we experience that, we need to contemplate, then we get realization. Otherwise, that's why Dharma, the question of infinite meaning is because of one teaching. If one teaching in this world can manifest to 7.7 billion people with 7.7 million different meanings. So this is the way for us to cultivate a spiritual practice, because that meaning can only come to you. So the contemplation here, today is a little bit long because it refers to this teaching and how we cultivate and how we take the journey in our life. So being in harmony is about learning to live life in accord with the balance of elements as well as the imbalance of elements. So when we cultivate, we want to be at ease with this, whatever that comes to us in our life becoming. It's about learning to live life in accord. That means whether it is balance of elements or imbalance of things, we still abide in samadhi. And that is where I mentioned earlier, and that's where we need to train ourselves. So we are no longer afflicted, whether by the emotion of somebody else or whatever is happening around us. So such a skillful living. So living skillfully enables us to understand and realize the wisdom of applying the teachings in our daily life. So as I mentioned just now, that we need to go through this experience in our life. So that's why we on this life. So this life is very, very precious to us. And whatever happened to my life is different from what's going to happen to your life, because our karmic blueprint is different. So it's this teaching, the Dharma is universal, but the learning to us is different. So that learning is a different meaning. So that's why it can manifest so many meanings when we apply the teachings in our daily life. This is why a couple of days ago I shared with you, the greatest teacher to you is yourself. The fundamental skill is built from the foundation of virtues. So how can we learn that? First of all, our Master has taught us to have a good heart, a great loving heart, right? So how do we have to, and the training is Tzu Chi is about getting involved in the activities, serving the people, and that's where we get the foundation of the of virtues. It's from there on, then you know that this skill, you slowly grow your skill from the heart, and then you reach out to the mind. So with the skills of growing in virtues, the mind discerns the essence of the teaching. So this is going through the experiential learning, walking the path in virtues. Then your mind will then understand why is it that the profound meaning of the Dharma. So without laying the virtuous foundation, one cannot even begin to understand what wisdom life is. It has to be because the virtuous foundation is about cultivating the path of moving away from self-interest. When you move away from self-interest, you unlock a door of your mind to the vastness of the Dharma. And that's where the wisdom life can grow. So virtues are the practice of learning beyond the self of things. That means you're going along beyond self because you open the door away. So you open the door from self to non-self. So in absence of self, you learn beyond the mind because the mind is by nature, the mind has an ego, and ego is about the ego of the self. So wisdom, therefore, is beyond the thoughts. On relationship, so very often, sometimes, um, um, some of us are very fortunate that when we walk the path, we are able to walk the path together with the one closest to us. But sometimes the condition is such that the affinity is such that you have to walk alone. And or sometimes that could be the family. I come across a number of few families, of course, and even one of them, I later on I found out that she was also in Tzu Chi. The whole family Christians. Only she is a Buddhist, and I met her from other associations before. But nevertheless, you couldn't even be friends. They will always have this doubting relationship that when you walk the path, it could be from the circle of friends or whoever. But important thing to note is this. Many people may be doubtful of your journey. Okay, so let the doubt remains with them. And this is the same thing when we walk the path. Whether the imbalance is something externally, we do not let them to disrupt us, our balance internally. So the doubt will be there. So you clear your doubts. Other doubts, external doubts, will always be there. So let them be. So the last line actually I actually got inspired from one of the quotes that I got somewhere. So when this happens, you must understand that there is nothing in a caterpillar that indicates it will transform to be a butterfly. Okay, Gan En, brothers and sisters.
Yeah, truly intoxicated now, BrotherChin, with your wondrous sharing. Yeah, so fortunate to listen to sharing every morning. Yeah.